Welcome back to the story that built her. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with Melanie, and she's going to be talking a little bit about her story that she's sharing in one of our upcoming books. And Melanie, welcome. I know you're joining us from sunny Spain, yes?
Yeah, it's nighttime now, so the sun's gone down. But yeah, it is. It's beautiful. It'd be your version of Mexico. That's what it's like.
Yep. I'm half Mexican, and so I always say, if you're a Mexican, you have the Spanish to thank, actually. Like, don't hate the Spaniards. We got to be grateful. We got some good looks, we got good food, we got lots of good stuff from Spain.
I have always said I should have been a Spanish woman. I just love you so much. I love your passion, your energy, everything.
Oh yeah, plenty of all of that. So tell me this, how did you end up in Spain and how long have you been there?
So I've been here 7 years. Long
Mm.
story short, I'd been coming to the island on holiday for about 10 years on the trot. Every year that I went back to England got harder because I wasn't living a life that I want to live. So I was very, very miserable. And I don't know if you know about this, but we had a thing called Brexit. So the UK voted to be independent of Europe, which is a disaster because it is for the Brits, because before Brexit, we could live, work, pleasure in Europe like we could in England. We had the same rights in Europe as we did in England. Now they don't. And I could see the writing on the wall. And as you know, when it comes to red tape, and I knew it wouldn't go in my favor. And you know what? Then this is appropriate for what we're doing.
Mm.
I knew I was at a crossroads.
Mm.
I was feeling very unconfident with my life. But in my mind, I told myself, you've a choice to make now. You either let the government decide your future, which it's not a future you want, so you're a sitting lame duck, really,
Yeah.
or you just grab life by the kahunas, give it a go. And I always think of worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you end up going back to England. But I don't want to get old and go, I wonder if it would have worked. And here I still am, loving life.
I love it. That's just it. It's like when we get afraid to try something new, we've already started dying. We're already deteriorating. And I love that you went for it and you love it. And yeah, I love your post. I think there was a post about, you're gonna be so sad when the Spanish men aren't in Speedos anymore. And I was laughing because in Albania, there'll be like 74-year-old men who, they've got bellies out to here, but by God, they have a Speedo on. You can't even see it. But they have a Speedo on. And it's just, Derek always says, I love those men because they have all the confidence in the world.
Oh my God. It's funny because I'm surrounded by a lot of beaches, and August is the hottest month. And quite literally, if you could walk around nude, you would.
Yeah.
And I just think to them, it is funny to watch because they're just walking around the village in Speedos, but they've got from the beach to call at the shop to get more beers, get more snacks. And without sounding crass, it's their island. You
Yeah.
know, if I don't like it, I don't need to be here. And so I look at them, women as well. And when they're at the beach, they're so relaxed with their bodies. They're just at peace with who they are.
Bingo. Yeah. They are not self-conscious. They're just
No,
enjoying their thing, and it's not even on the radar. And I appreciate that too, because here in the US, like, women are overly obsessed and you
I
know
know.
critical and all the things, and they don't suffer with it.
No. I think it's very healthy because, I observe them a lot, and I'll see families hanging out at the beach, and everyone's just let rip, people. Like, there's no hang-ups about body image. I just think it's very refreshing.
Yeah, it is. It is, because for so many people, they've never experienced that. It's just been a completely different reality. So you're in Spain, you're enjoying the good life, you bet on yourself, went for it. Tell me a little bit about the story that you decided to share in Transforming Pain into Purpose.
Yeah. So because I found you, didn't I, in a Facebook group, and when I saw the title of the book, it really spoke to me. And I call my chapter Coming Out of the Shadows, and that's because I grew up with a narcissistic mother. And so if someone's not aware with what narcissistic behavior is, you're not allowed to be yourself. So they're going to control you, they're going to manipulate you, they're going to gaslight you. And when you're a child, and I was an only child, so you don't know what you don't know. Then when you get into your teenage years, we already know that that's going to be a rocky road, because that's when a teenager is discovering life and forming a character and who they are. And my mother didn't want me to have a character. My mother wanted me to be totally submissive. And my dad enabled her to be the narcissist. I grew up with the phrase, don't do that, it will upset your mother. I could be really upset. And this was even in my being 18. And my dad would be like, don't do that, it's going to upset your mother, don't set her off. And my feelings were never taken into consideration. There was no boundaries, there was no self-worth, there was no self-respect. And being myself had consequences. If she was in a good mood, it was okay. If she wasn't in a good mood, expect World War III. And so I'm just grateful that in this journey, my late grandmother, which was my dad's mum, she used to be a nurse, and she saw this and she stepped in and she said, I'm not allowing this. She's going to live with me. I was about 18. And she said, I know the signs of someone going into a nervous breakdown. And she's got the signs.
Wow.
And so she's going to live with me, whether you like it or not. I loved my Gran from the minute I was born. Me and her had a connection. My Gran wasn't the interfering mother-in-law. She never tried to disrupt the family dynamic. She never tried to annoy my mum. She just didn't. And so what I learned from my Gran was unconditional love.
Mm.
And so one day I was at my Gran's, I think I was about 15, and I was just bawling. And bearing in mind, she'd never said a bad word about my mum. Never. So I didn't even know. It was only when I went around to my Gran's, I was crying over something, and my Gran just said, your mum's a narcissist. And so this is what's playing out. And I remember in that conversation, she said, you don't understand what I'm about to say, but you will do when you get older. So I'm going to say it. You're going to have an amazing life because you're a strong woman. And that was at 15. She said, I will be able to die peacefully knowing that you are going to live a good life because you're not going to let her walk all over you. So she said, it is horrible what you're going through, but you're going to be a very strong woman and you're going to have an amazing life. And I think of those words a lot.
Those are powerful words, especially when they come from a person that like you said, you had a connection with and you knew loved you unconditionally. Let's talk a little bit about that, because having a parent like this, there is no unconditional love. It's all very, very conditional. Mm-hmm. And the problem is when you grow up with this is just normal. You don't know any other way. How did this impact you? Were there things that showed up and now you can look back and go, oh, I was doing that because I was getting criticized. I was being manipulated. Like you had to stay in line. You had to not rock the boat, not anger mom. How did this show up for you? What did you see in yourself?
Well, when you've been through something like that, as much as you get over it eventually because you're no longer around it, I know I'll never stop doing this. This is just because of what I went through. I sense when someone isn't happy by body language or tone in their voice. A lot of people wouldn't even pick up on those signals. I do, because I was very used to see how my mum's mood was in the morning. So it was like, could it be a good day? Might be. Plus, you could have a really good start to the day and you think, right, we're going to have a good day today. But then my mum would start a problem because she needs a problem before she can go to bed, because it's a way of being superior and powerful.
Oh, wow.
So,
Hold on. That's this is a good lie. She needs a problem before she goes to bed. Woo!
yeah. So we could have had a really good day. Laughter, joy, music, singing, whatever we've done. And then out of nowhere, she would start the row. It's always going to be my fault. And then she would go to bed quite happy because she's powerful and she's got my dad enabling her to do it, you know? Obviously, when I was that age, that's why my Gran stood in, because you could see I was leaning towards a nervous breakdown, because that's not good for anyone. So there's that. Also, I didn't realize until I got into my teens that I was literally, and when I say the word fight, I don't mean physically fighting, but when I say the word fight, I mean having to defend who I am, having to explain who I am, having to say, but this is me, and it always being a problem. And so I'll tell you how bad it got. I remember there was always a row. There was so many rows in my teenage years that I got so weary with it. When they started, I would say, do you know what? Because I could feel, this was going to get, and they love to draw it out. I got to the point where I just said, do you know what? This could go on an hour or more, depending on your mood. You're going to make out she's right. You're going to make out I'm wrong. So let's just draw the line. Because why go through an hour or more of a saga? Because it's going to be wrong anyway. So I got to that point where, and here's the thing, I didn't feel defeated because I had that spark in me. But I was weary. I didn't want to row anymore. I was weary. I was tired. And it's interesting because when I speak to women who've been through this, or I'll read about it online, a lot of narcissistic survivors, I 100% stand by this. You savor your peace when older. You savor it like, oh, fresh air. I don't want to, because there's better things I can do with mine. Look at how well just so divided now, the cancel culture and people saying, well, I don't agree with that, and wanting to start out. And I'm just like, I don't want to go down that road. You're entitled to your beliefs. You're entitled to have different opinions to me. I don't want to fight the opinions out. Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah, you had experienced enough conflict, enough battles where it just costs too much. It's so draining, it's exhausting, and it's not going to lead to any better place. You already knew that. And so, yeah, peace is far more valuable. And I find it so fascinating that even as a teenager, you would just be like, hey, listen, how about I just skip the whole freaking World War 17 and you're right and I'm wrong and we'll call it a day. It's like,
Yeah,
wow.
because I didn't want to run anymore. I was bored. There's the word tired, but I was also bored. It was boring.
It was
It's like, Do you know what it's like?
predictable.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love some of these reality shows, but you know, like Real Housewives, where they'll have a whole season where it's the same row for the whole season, and then they come into the studio, don't they? And then they pull it all to pieces. And of course, it makes good TV. But that literally was what my life felt like. It was like, season one, here's the row, we're gonna keep rowing. And I was just like, oh man, I'm just bored of the row. Can we change it? Can we do a different row? Like, this is boring.
Yes, the fight was so frequent and repetitive that it wasn't even fun to be in the battle and fight it out. Whew. Okay, so
Yeah.
how long would you say it took you to be able to feel solid in yourself and to feel like you were disconnecting from all that, like you could put your own pieces back together? How long do you think that took?
In my early 20s, I was away from them, living my own life. But obviously, when you remove yourself from a very dysfunctional, toxic environment, you're not just gonna, oh, life is amazing today. Like, you're scarred in a way. And so you're working on a lot of things. Like, I've had to learn boundaries, I've had to learn self-worth, I've had to learn self-love. And you know, my gran died when I was in my early 20s, and I was devastated, as obviously that, you know, you would imagine. And that unconditional love had gone. And it wasn't just the unconditional love, we had a bond that I have never had with anyone ever. Just the most amazing bond. And I'm not trying to say, oh, well, she was your gran, so I bet she spoiled you all the time. Here's the thing, when I was living with my gran, yes, she would spoil me and treat me the way grandmothers do, but she also would tell me some hard truths. So she wasn't just spoiling me, she was actually doing what my mum should have done. And sometimes she was in a situation that she would have rather not have had to have that conversation, but she was doing it because she had to do it and she knew she had to do it. We never fell out, but you know, there was conversations that really she shouldn't have had to have, but she had them. And so when I lost her, I lost a best friend, I lost unconditional love, and I felt very lost, as you can imagine. And so this is going to sound really weird to you because I am in my early 50s. Okay, where I live is beautiful, but what's felt really here about living here is I really learned for myself. And I
Melanie,
often have moments where I think,
your audio cut out right there, so I want to make sure that we get it. You say that.
okay, yes, so I said I don't want to sound woo-woo, but living out here has been very healing.
Mhm.
And I have had situations out here where I think, I know that's you, Gran. Just something that me and her would know. Just that moment where I'm like, she's here, she's guiding me, she's helping me. Now you could just say, oh, you're just saying that to comfort yourself. Maybe, I don't know, we'll never know. But I still feel that feeling of she's still around me and she still wants me to succeed and she still wants me to do well. Um, so what I'm trying to say in answer to your question is, you're never going to fully heal because it'll always be there. But I'm more accepting of who I am. You see, here's the thing. When you're dealing with a narcissist, they demand perfection all of the time. And you're never gonna, ever succeed. And so I am super hard on myself because of that. And if I get myself in a tizzy, I'll just have a moment. Let's say I'm feeling maybe overtired and I'm stressed out that I'm not doing what I want to do because there just seems so many problems. And I'll have a moment where I sit down and I go, Mel, it's okay. because you don't have to prove anything. And you know what? Even if you slip up, even if this is the biggest disaster of the day, you're still a decent human being. It's all good. But I know, and I have to kind of reframe my mind in that moment, because I'm still that little girl who's waiting for my mum to open the door and start the row. So that will always be there. And you generally get like that when you're overtired. So I understand it. And you know, we can all be too hard on ourselves, but I know why I'm hard on myself, because of that upbringing.
Absolutely. I recently heard someone say that, when you have that kind of parent, you never feel like you succeeded. It's never good enough. You never arrive. And they said there's no one who becomes a bigger overachiever, workaholic, perfectionist than the one who had the parent who would just never give them that recognition, never tell them you did
Yeah.
good, you know? And it's like you could be 40, 50, 70 years old and still be waiting for that nod from the parent, and you know it's not going to come.
Yeah. And also another thing which I think is very apt to what we're saying now, how can I word this? Like you're saying, you're seeking the validation, you're hoping that they're gonna say well done or whatever. And you're waiting for it, but it doesn't happen. And so I know when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to say I wasn't happy about something, or I wasn't allowed to say that something had upset me without it being World War III. And even to this day, I'm better now, but I've had to learn it. I've struggled voicing my unhappiness with people, whatever setting that is, whether it's with a lover, whether it's with a friend, whether it's in the workplace. I always struggled to voice my upset because I was afraid it would go. And I've had to really process that. And so a lot of the time I was the people pleaser and the codependency crap that you do. But here's the thing, now I've worked through it, here's where I'm good. And I feel like this is really good and it's growth and okay, I'm in my 50s, I should be at this stage. But hey, if I get in a situation now and I know I need to voice something that I think, oh my God, this could ruin a friendship or, you know, whatever, I still do it. And instead of worrying about, but what if I lose their friendship? Or what if this gets really out of hand? What if they start turning on me? Or whatever I think could happen, I tell myself, if you can't be yourself, then they're not a friend, or they're not the right partner, or you're not working with the right clients. Because if you can't be yourself, then you are still the little girl at home being told you have to do this whether you like it or not. And so now when I'm like, oh, I don't know how this is going to be perceived, and what if they take it this way, I have that little chat. It will never go away. It will always be there. But then at the back immediately is the other voice that says, but that's okay, because that's their opinion and you can't control what they do or say, but you have a right to voice how you feel, both positive and negative. And I've had to learn that. And it's only now in my early 50s that I am okay and secure with that.
It's huge. And I think you articulated it perfectly. It's you have that right. You have that ability. And if they can't handle it or they can't receive it, it's not a reflection on you. It's just simply revealing who they are. It's revealing where the relationship actually is. And while it can be hard to accept, at least you haven't denied yourself, and at least you know.
Exactly. Because if you're going to do everything in your power to keep them happy, then you are actually how can I word this? You're actually not living to the best of your life's capabilities. Because again, the title of my chapter is Coming Out of the Shadows. Now, for me, it's coming out of the shadows of a narcissistic mother, but someone who reads my chapter could have a different slant on it. Maybe they're in a relationship which is bad and they know they have to leave. Maybe they're working with a toxic boss. I don't know what the situation may be, but for anyone listening to this podcast, and if you're going through this, I beg of you, you are allowed to feel your feelings. And we are told when we're in a narcissistic relationship, we have to be happy and that bad feelings are not good because it's abuse. And so I want you to know that if you are going through something which is toxic right now, just know that you're what you would class bad feelings, so upset, anger, whatever that could be, just know that feelings are feelings. Don't judge them. Your good feelings are good feelings. Your bad feelings, don't put anything bad on that context. Just know that anger is as important as joy. We're human beings. We ebb and we flow.
Yes. We have the whole buffet of experiences and emotions, and absolutely. Melanie, I'm so glad that you are writing about this in your chapter. Where can people follow you or learn more about the work that you do?
Yeah, so they can find me at my website, which is You Are Your Marketing. They can find me on Facebook. My name is Melanie Whittaker. I've got red hair. You can find me on LinkedIn, same name, Melanie Whittaker. I live on Threads. I'm on Instagram, but I love Threads. So my handle on that is You Are Your Marketing. And yeah, I do marketing and public relations, and I've got a freebie on my website because I want to say this as we wrap up. Isn't it funny how you don't put the pieces together? And one day I was talking to a client and I was telling her some of the stuff I've been through growing up. And she was like, oh my God, this is why you do what you do. And I was like, what do you mean? And she went, you know, the fear of being safe in your own house, being safe to be you, you know, the fear. So when you're dealing with clients who are like, oh, can I say that online? Oh, should I do that? Oh, you're there to guide them, hold their hand, and let them know it's safe. It's fearful, but it's safe.
Absolutely. It's like when you have walked it and you are familiar with it, then you can help others because you can spot it and you know it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And for those of you watching, like Melanie said, you get to determine what relationships are for you. And if it's not helping you, if it's not contributing to you, and if you don't believe more and more every day that you're amazing and you have what it takes, might be worth examining. Until next time, have a wonderful day.